Okay, in this video we're going to talk about how to create a layer mask. And there are a lot of ways to create a layer mask, so we're just going to kind of crash course through it right now. Okay, first let me zoom in a little bit on my image. So you've already learned one way to create a layer mask, and that is by selecting this layer and clicking on the new adjustment layer, and then picking any of these adjustment layers, and it will create its own layer mask. So if I go to brightness and contrast, it creates a brightness and contrast layer and a layer mask. The problem is that layer mask is not attached to my actual layer, but it still does have an effect on it. So let's get rid of that, and let's look at another way to create a layer mask. And that's from a selection. So I can make a selection using a lasso tool, a quick selection tool, a marquee tool, etc. Or in this case, I have a selection saved for this soccer ball. So I'll go to selection, I'll go to load selection, select my soccer ball, click OK, and it loads that same selection that I had from before. And then I can create a layer mask off of that selection. The way I do that is just go and click the layer mask icon right here, click that, and it automatically takes that selection and masks around that selection. So in this case, the ball was selected, so that's the part that shows. The white part shows, the black part hides, so all it's showing is my soccer ball. Quick trick that you can use in your layer mask is you can invert the layer mask. So I can make this black and the outside white, and all I do is hit Control or Command on your Mac and I, the letter I. So Control I. That inverts your layer mask. So now my area that's showing is the background, and the area that's being hidden, you can just see the checkerboards here, which is the transparent pixels, is showing where the soccer ball used to be. Okay, so that's how you do it from a selection. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. A lot of times it will ask you, do you want to apply the mask to the layer before removing? Do not say apply. If you say apply, it's going to get rid of this layer mask, but it's going to delete the pixels that you have masked off, in this case our soccer ball, and it will just delete the soccer ball. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to say apply the mask. You want to say delete the mask, period. And then it's just going to go away. Okay, so click delete. The mask is gone and it hasn't done any changes to my image, which is very important. Okay, let's look at another way to create a mask. This should have probably been the first way I showed you, but because it's the simplest, go down to the layer mask icon, click that, and then you have a new layer mask connected to this image. It's just blank right now, but at this point you can modify the mask to mask off certain areas of your image. Okay, but that's a simple way to create it. And then, as I was just saying, if you hit Control, Command on the Mac, and the letter I, you can invert it. And so I can make it all black. I could mask off the entire image. Hit Control I again to invert it again. You can just toggle back and forth here. And then we'll get into how to actually modify the mask in some subsequent example lectures. But just to give you a quick idea, where this is white right now, we want to add in black to mask off certain areas. And you've already seen how we could do that using a selection, but you could also do that with a brush. So I hit the B key and make sure that you're selected on black over here. If you're not, you can hit the X key to toggle these back and forth. And if this is showing weird colors, you can hit the D key to set it back to your defaults. But then you go and hit your X key, and if I want to paint black in here, I just paint it right in. Let's just do it like that, it doesn't matter. But you can see that I've now masked off the entire surrounding area and left just this little piece of the ball showing in the mask. Okay, you can Control Z to undo that. Or you can use a gradient tool, hit the G key. As you recall, the gradient tool will create a black to white gradient. On this case, we have it on the radial gradient tool, which creates a circle, which is perfect for this soccer ball. And let's set the opacity at 100 and see what that does. Click in the center, drag out away from the ball, release, and it created a gradient where it masks out the center of the image and fades it to the outside. And of course we can invert this by hitting Control I, and then we're just masking out the areas around the edges, and the center is still the color that we want. Let's Control Z a couple times, and I'll do a more subtle one. I'll do a little less opacity, and I'll do it a little smaller. There we go. And then you're just creating a layer mask that allows something in the center to show through, and we'll talk more about that in subsequent lectures. Those are ways to create layer masks, whether you start with a selection and create a layer mask from that selection, whether you create a blank layer mask and work from scratch, and then you use gradient tools or brushes to add to the mask. So try a few of those things out, review the video if you need to walk through it step by step, and I'll see you in the next couple videos where we're going to actually put these things to work.